Everybody, welcome back. Welcome back. The Trading Triangles here. Hey, Kay. Hey, Sean.
Hey guys,
Hello, good evening.
Looking forward
good
to getting some more
afternoon.
charts today.
Or good morning.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to our global audience. I was actually thinking earlier today, Kay, just between you and me, there's thousands of miles. And then you've got
Yes,
Sean on the other side of the world. And
it's
through the
amazing, right?
beauty of, yeah, it's unreal. And then here we are talking trading. We talk throughout the week, obviously. And this is great. Love connecting. And so, with that, real quick, we are, as I just mentioned, three friends that like to trade. We're not trading professionals, so this is not financial advice. This is for pure entertainment and educational purposes only. I do appreciate you guys tuning in, and hopefully you get some good value every week. And yeah, looking to get right into it. I don't know, Sean, you had a busy day today. Has it been a positive energy kind of feeling day? You feeling positive heading into these charts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be an interesting week. We've got obviously the FOMC coming up on Wednesday as well, interest rate decision. So that'd be interesting to see what that comes out with. Lots of earnings, which I'm sure we're about to dive into. But yeah, I'm just managing trades at the moment. I'm not really taking many. I sold out my NNDM this week, which I was really pleased about. Got a really nice exit price, which got pretty much got a bit lucky.
Nice.
And yeah, that's my trading this week.
Yeah, and Kay, we've been talking about earnings ramping up. We're here. Are you excited?
Yeah, exactly. I'm so excited. This is the big tech earnings week, and a couple
Big
of good
names.
trades last week on Bank of America, Tesla. It's amazing.
Nice, good to hear it. Yeah, great performance last week from some names and some not, some others not so much. So yeah, let's get right to it. Just looking at the indexes like we always do. S&P was up slightly, 0.69% on the week, but the Dow was the big performer, up over 2%. And Russell 2K was also up 1.5%. So good to see that, kind of healthy moves from both the Dow and the small caps catching up a little bit. NASDAQ was down 0.57% on the week, but still up. I think I've got 34% on the year. I have to constantly double check that. That's such a strong number. Bitcoin was flat, holding its 80% for the year, so still great numbers there. It's right around 29.9. And then the VIX didn't do anything yet again. It's at 1360. So really, the VIX is just kind of laying low and trying to stay off of everybody's radar. But
Exactly.
yeah, with Tesla, with Tesla and Netflix last week, kind of hurt the NASDAQ performance overall. It looks like dragged that down. Any other names that I didn't mention? Looks like United Healthcare just absolutely crushed it, up over 9% off on the far right of our chart here.
Yeah, I think the Charles Schwab doesn't show here. It's up over 10% for the week, and Morgan Stanley was up 7+%. Bank of America, of course, was also up 6%. Those were all kind of like a foundation trade after JP Morgan's outstanding performance. Tesla, I think, was a kind of a letdown, but generally it's always given whenever you have those big run-ups up to the earnings. It's always buy the rumor and sell the news situation. So yeah, we'll probably expect something similar this week as well in one of those stocks for sure.
Yeah, you can see Google and Meta both down fairly large. NVIDIA is down fairly large. And then, as you mentioned, Tesla. So, yeah, got big names this week to look forward to. The Fear and Greed Index. Kay, you always talk about this.
I love it, right? It's 82 right now. Last week was 80. So the greed is just increasing every week.
Isn't that incredible?
That's amazing, right? And because I've been tracking since 528, at least in my notebook, right? 528, we were at 66. Now we are at 82. That's it. That's all I have to say.
That's it. That's the end of the sentence right there. Yeah,
Do you
it's
think
incredible.
So, do you think it's staying this high because stocks are pulling it back and people are thinking this is an opportunity to buy?
I think so, right?
That would
If you
make
think
sense,
about
right?
it, right, the S&P is up, the Nasdaq is up 30%. I don't see any fear anymore in the market, right? It's game on. We are talking
It's
about new
hard.
highs.
Yeah, if you're looking at year-to-date numbers, you see, S&P up 18%, Dow's up 6%, Nasdaq 34%, Russell 2K 11%. 11? Yeah, I can't believe these numbers. So yeah, I mean, it's almost this should be extreme FOMO. Maybe that's what it actually is reading, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
anyway.
And honestly, we don't know when the pullback will happen, or even if the pullback happens, I don't think we are going to go back to October lows. Maybe, yeah, 5-10%, which is a good, healthy correction. So we should call it a correction and not a crash.
Yeah, a pullback, a correction. Not,
Yeah.
I don't think. Yeah, it would take quite a bit to get a crash at these levels, given where we're at. But the extreme greed just persists. It's just impressive.
Mhm.
And then we've got big earnings, like we mentioned. Right dead center of the chart there, I see Meta. That stands out. To the left of that, Alphabet and Boeing. What else, guys?
Microsoft. You
Oh
got
yeah,
Microsoft.
Microsoft.
Yeah. We got I think for me, we track Intel. So Intel is right on Thursday. Couple of big dividend names. You have Verizon, 3M, AT&T, Boeing, McDonald's, MasterCard. Those are some big, names in the options, not in the options, in the dividend world. And then on Friday, we have all oil here. You got ExxonMobil, you have Chevron, some big US companies for reporting earnings on oil side, if you trade on the oil.
Yeah, good stuff. A lot of huge names, like really big movers in the market this week. So a lot to talk about. We've got charts on a bit of it. Make sure you, as Sean likes to remind me, because I constantly forget, hit the like button and subscribe. Appreciate everybody's support here, and it allows us to get out to more people, and we keep doing this every week. So appreciate that, and we'll keep it rolling. Get right to the charts. So first up, I posted a chart here on SPY. Really just showing the channel that it's been in. It's really kind of a clean channel. Those two lines are parallel, right? Exact same distance apart all the way up. And we just kind of bounced off the top upper end of that channel, the 4-hour chart or 4-hour candles. And we could see a bit of a pullback here. We were talking about Sean, you mentioned the rate decision on Wednesday. If Fed comes out and is speaking about more hikes or just kind of keeping that hawkish tone, perhaps it's more of a reason to pull back a little bit. But I am looking at that 443.90 is what I've got for potential support level if we do get that pullback.
Yeah, I mean, I like the channel. I just wanted to get your thoughts on when if you trade a channel, I don't know if you look for that kind of thing. But if it breaks out above, some people like to trade that. I don't personally like it. I think it's a bit more of an extended move. So it's a little bit unrelated completely to what we're talking about, but just a little thought. Is something
That's
that
the
you
other
look
side
for,
of it.
maybe?
Yeah, I agree, because if you've got already an upward trending channel and you get that break above it, I don't play for an extended move higher. I mean, you might miss out on an incredible gain there, but I think the odds are really against you of having that happen. The flip side, though, I will play the breakout below, right? Because it looks like we've broken trend. Yeah, you agree?
Exactly right. Yeah, I'm with you there.
I have a point to make here, actually. It's kind of unrelated, though. You mentioned that we have an FOMC meeting coming up this week, right? And it's so surprising that a lot of the analysts on the TV are already expecting a 25% rate hike, right? 25 basis point.
Yeah, absolutely. That's baked in, they say, right?
Yeah, it's baked in. So I really don't think the FOMC is going to be the major driver this week. I think the earnings of Meta, Microsoft, Alphabet are the major. And I think among the three, I would focus a lot on Microsoft, because Microsoft is a huge name, and it kind of sets the tone for the earnings. So
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on that. That's interesting, though, that you can almost not worry about what the Fed's going to say with respect to rates. It's already baked in. He could come out with a really strongly hawkish tone. What would be crazy, I was actually talking to a friend of mine about this yesterday, and I don't think it happens this week by any stretch, but if he comes out and starts talking about actually cutting rates at some point after not talking about it at all, just an absolute reversal, I think a lot of folks are saying, oh, that would be really bullish, right? And they would think markets would just take off. But I think the only time that happens is in a really, if we're in a bad spot economically speaking, and it actually would be a signal that, the economy is not doing well, and it could actually, cause a bit of a panic. So I don't know. That's just something that I've been thinking about and kind of discussing on the side recently. But back to the chart. In the near term, these 4-hour candles I like because it helps. I trade 1, 2, 3 weeks out, and it gives you these patterns to trade off of. So I do think we're at the upper end of the channel. Wouldn't be surprised to see a bit of a pullback, but I think to the point made earlier, a pullback, a bit of a correction. That's it. That's all I'm really looking for. And one last point on this chart, RSI, bottom right corner here. Is not overbought. It's not oversold. MACD is positive, right? Showing the upward trend is still in place, but RSI is showing we could go either direction here. So room to run, room to pull back a little bit, but within this channel and trying to trade the channel is what I'm looking at. So let's keep it rolling. We've got charts within charts.
I know. I've gone back to my original thing, what I used to do back in the day. So I put the 2-hour chart main, like the big one that you can see, and then the daily on top of that. And you can just see, if you take a step back, if you have a look briefly on the daily, we are very extended, and we saw that with your chart.
Yeah.
Level I've got is 444. You had 443.90. So we're pretty much 10 cents out. So, again, spot on, we're pretty similar to our levels. And if we are going to break this 20 moving average on the 2-hour chart, the reason I like to go to the 2 hours is to give a little bit more perspective, a little bit more detail on the candles. Just the way I look at things, I think. But we can see on the bigger chart we've got there, we are kind of looking to break that 2-hour 20 moving average and move down to perhaps to 50, which the first line I've got there is 447.50. So that would be the line that I'll be looking for a bit of support, of course. But I think the major support is, we mentioned it before, is the blue line, which is the 444 level. Again, you obviously had 443.90. But I would look for a pullback. I think it'll be healthy for the stock market, I think, in general. But yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, you got an additional level in there, 447.50. Yeah, noted.
I think that goes back to way before, and that's why I've drawn that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
and it lines up, right, like you said, with that moving average for the 2-hour candles. So look at what that looks like on the 4-hour. I'm sure it's very similar. But yeah, good stuff. Anything from you on this chart, Kay, before we move to the Qs?
No, I think it's I think a correction, 5 to 10% is most likely at some point in time. But I think, again, as I mentioned, this week is focused on Meta and Microsoft and Google. If they report bad earnings, which I don't think they will, I think we may be able to keep the momentum up.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to report bad earnings based on exactly what I just don't understand what the news would be that they cause them to miss. But that's what happens. That's why there's surprises.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. I'm kind of leaning towards expecting them to be a little bit more positive, but probably having a timid market heading into those earnings a bit, and into Wednesday, just because of the rate decision. But yeah, we'll have to see. The Qs, excuse me. So the Qs, I lost my voice earlier this week. You have to forgive me if it comes and goes a little. So yeah, this is a broader chart. I zoomed out, which I don't usually do. I kind of focus on the more near term, but we have a clear target that the bulls are trying to push to here. So I want to call that out, and we're trying to get back to the 408.71 highs from, how far back was that? I think that was the end of 21. But regardless, we've had that long downtrend, and then this year just ripping higher, nice and steep, not a lot of choppiness, just continuing the trend, respecting the 20-day moving average, and we pulled back nicely to the trend line. I wouldn't be surprised to see if we test 371 this week. As we've been talking about, 370 roughly, if we pull back with some precaution in the markets. A little bit overbought on the RSI at the bottom of the chart there, but it did pull back and drop down below that overbought level. So that, that's a good sign. Meaning there's still room to run, and the Qs still are, RSI stands for Relative Strength Index. So while we talk often about, if the RSI is too high or too low, it's overbought, oversold. Also note that if they're in the higher range of the RSI, if you're in the higher end of the RSI range, that was hard to say, then, the stocks have been performing much better and are the relatively stronger performers in the market. So something that I always like to keep in mind and remind myself. Okay, I saw you come off mute. Anything to add?
Yeah.
For the this week?
I think just from an options perspective, I saw some a very interesting number here. So at 375, you have about, for the upcoming week, you have 159,000 contracts expiring, and at 377, you have 170,000, and at 378, you have 139,000 plus contracts. So those are looks like a lot of key levels where a lot of contracts are expiring.
Yeah, that's a lot of contracts.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? That seems like a lot of contracts.
Yeah. So yeah,
seems heavy.
And I think there is a bullish tone here, because I'll give you the numbers again. So 377,
Yep.
you have 170,000. 378, you have 139,000. 379, you have 105,000, and at 380, you have 101,000. So you have over 6 digits. Contract expiration in these, like 377 to 380. After that, it drops to like 60,000. So you know that this is where seems like the market is pulling for a move in these levels.
Good to note. Thank you for that, Kay. All right.
Well, just going back to the technicals, I really like the way that 50 is moving almost vertically up. The 50 moving average, which is a lighter blue line. But that to me could be broken quite easily if we were to get poor earnings from one of these guys reporting earnings this week, or obviously Jerome Powell come out and say something bad. I think that 50 level could be broken. It may not be broken completely. It might just dip below, come back up, as we've seen before in the chart just here. But just the acceleration from that one line is incredible. It really is.
It really is. And the 50 crossed the 150, and if you're using the 200-day moving average, way back in March, and has just continued to rip. So that 50 crossover there is generally bullish. Hey, I'm having a hard time talking today, but yeah. So we've gotten the bullish run following it. Makes a lot of sense. Good to see it. Yeah. So pulling back is very extended at this point. Again, sticking with the theme, it just makes sense. So,
it does, yeah. And you watch next week. We'll come on, and the QQQ will be in the 500s.
Just absolutely blast off. Yeah, that's how it goes. That is how it goes.
It just shows we know nothing.
Hey, you just trade the best you can with the charts in front of you, and then be humbled by the market, right?
Exactly right.
If you have a call on QQQ and it goes to 500, imagine the amount of money you'll be making on that.
If that happens, all right, I'm gonna go buy calls on Qs. Just small bet. If it goes to 500, I will tell you now. I will be taking next week off of the trading triangle. So I was celebrating today. Sorry, Sean, back to you.
Yeah, of course. So this is my chart on the QQQ. Quite similar. I've got the daily on the left, and we can just see the kind of the aggressive selling pressure we had. Two full. I like to think they're quite full candles. So the selling pressure is definitely there, and I just want to put that into the daily there on the left side, which is the little kind of window you see. Must be a word for that. But going back to the bigger one, which is the 2 hour, and we can see that we're kind of on the 50, the moving average, the blue line. And like I've been saying before, I think we could easily break that with the momentum we've had through the QQQ. And then I'm looking at that 200 moving average line down the bottom there, which is the red one, sneaking in down below, which is kind of 357 level, kind of going in from there, and you can see a bit of confluence there. My favorite word at the moment. That you've got the support line and the 200. So if we were going to pull back, that's the level we're looking for. I don't know why I like the 2 hours that much. I do. I look at it every day in different stocks. It's just my trading preference. I think a lot of people use the 4 hour. I think Nate, you used the 4 hour.
Sure.
Kay, I don't know if you have a preference in terms of time frame.
Generally, if I'm doing a day trade, probably maybe 30 minutes, an hour. Or if I'm like scalping, I generally like scalping. If I do scalping, if I have time, I'll do scalping. So then I'll go to like maybe a 5-minute candle, 15 minute.
Otherwise, you trade dailies, right? The daily candles.
Yeah, I mostly trade daily candles. Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense. Yeah, cool. I like the 4 hour, but Sean, I think that you find what works, right? Like what works for you and what you're most comfortable with. I do like rotating. So I'll look at, for example, the Qs, and I'll look at the weekly, daily, 4 hours, the 1 hour, kind of narrow it down and see if anything pops off with one chart or the other. Like if one of the moving averages is respecting more on one chart than the other, that kind of a thing. But yeah, I think you go with what you're comfortable with, and stick with it. Really is the key. That's my take.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to tailor to your preferences, haven't you?
Yeah, it's all about preference, right? You gotta be comfortable trading. You don't want to be like forcing it at any spot. But what else on this chart? Are we moving on past the Qs?
I think so. I've covered everything I wanted to cover for the QQQ. It's going to be an interesting week.
Yeah, lots of options action going on there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so here we have started my set. NEO is up first, and we can see it's in a very good bullish trend. I know we've had a bit of a sticky last couple of weeks, but I think that's normal with the move we've had. And look, we're still above the kind of blue trend line, which I've drawn there. The thick blue line. I've gone with blue for now. Don't know why. But yeah, as long as we follow that trend line up, I think that'd be really, really good. And you can see that I've drawn a little kind of grey circle there. And that's to kind of point out the fact that the 20 looks to be moving through the 200. Now, I do think we need a nice little move up, maybe towards kind of 11 level. So hoping in the next couple of days we can get a good move. And that will just confirm that move for the 20 move average to kind of go through the 200. And also that kind of level as well, which is the $10 level, which is also psychological. But as you can see throughout the chart, I've drawn lots and lots of blue dots. And that's the kind of touch it. Obviously, nothing's exact. It's kind of around that area, of course. But you can see the kind of contact with $10. And that really confirms the way I think about the kind of psychological level in terms of $10. I don't know if you would agree with that. I'm assuming you will.
The blue dots are back, Sean.
Yes. Yeah, I've gone for highlighted dots because it's a lot easier to put them on the screen. So I think they look better as well, a bit cleaner.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah,
it makes your point very strongly, I think. These are all the touch points firming up why this level is so strong. I like the blue dots. I'm a fan. And the blue line, real quick, I'm totally interjecting. But so I was drawing these charts a while back and before I got wise. And I'm colorblind, so the red and the green I flip-flop and mix up sometimes if I don't pay close attention. And I was drawing all these red lines all over the chart, and I was like really bullish. It was called. I was like, "Why you have all those red lines then?" So anyway, so now I appreciate the blue ones for what it's worth.
I'm gonna keep it to blue then, just for you, of course.
Oh, you're too kind. Blue dots, blue lines. It's helpful. But yeah, higher highs and higher lows. Getting more serious with you here, Sean. That's the continued pattern, and so you want to get back above 1130. That would be excellent to see here, right? Even if it pulled back right afterwards.
Yeah, and the registration, so the dues are coming through up to 7,000 for this month so far, which is good. So if you just double that as 14,000, which is almost a record-breaking month, I think they can push through the kind of 16,000 delivery mark. But yeah, from a chart perspective, obviously we want that kind of blue line to come through the 200 ultimately. That's what I'm really looking for in the next couple of months. But we're decreasing in volume, as you can see as well down the bottom there. But yeah, that's NEO in a nutshell for me.
Sean, I have a question.
Go ahead, Kay.
Yeah, my question was, are they reporting earnings anytime soon?
No, so they report really late. They haven't announced it, of course, but it'll be towards the end of the earnings season.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Sean, I was checking out your YouTube channel and your posts about the deliveries and looking to break records here, and that was really interesting. I'm gonna have to follow along a little closer, pay a little more closer attention. If you guys haven't seen what Sean posts on NEO, it's great information. You got your spreadsheets. I know you're a fan of the spreadsheets, and it's great info. So I appreciate that. Check that out.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Awesome. So we're moving on to ENPH now. They report earnings on Thursday, I think. Thursday evening, which will be interesting because Tesla came out the other day and they said that their solar division's not doing so well in terms of sales. But I'm thinking maybe it's because they're probably not pushing that as much as their cars, etc. Are they, right? In terms of the battery technology and that kind of stuff. But I think that ENPH could do quite well. Obviously, Q2 traditionally, from what I've heard and what I've researched, is not so good for kind of solar companies. It's obviously seasonal, isn't it? But yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see earnings. And what I've got really here is if we were to get good earnings, I think we can move a push through 200. And then we've got a gap fill at 214, which I've kind of noted there. And you can kind of see where it started in the very top left corner of this chart with the little red dot. I went for a red dot this time. I don't know why. Don't know if you can see that, Nate. Sorry about that. Yeah, we have that level. And I think if we get good earnings or at least good guidance or something like that, I know in the last earnings report, it was kind of poor guidance. And that's why we saw the drop. But if we can have that bit of revised guidance, I think that would be really nice. We've all seen a nice little move back up to kind of 200 and up to kind of 214, as just mentioned. Likewise, contrary to that, if we get poor earnings, I think we kind of revisit that kind of 152. I think it is. I've got there. Yeah, 152 level. But yeah, also I've highlighted obviously the 200 moving average. It has played across quite nicely on the 2 hour. It's just basically hugged it for the whole of that middle section of this chart. So that'll be interesting to see if it can kind of come down there this week. To kind of test the waters before earnings. So that I'll be looking for those, key points. I don't know if you have any thoughts on the end phase, whether you even look at the stock. I know last week I brought it up and we were discussing about what it actually did. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean this little bit of a higher, break up to the 190 level is definitely positive to see. I just like to see higher highs made. I mean, it just shows me that. Get a little bit of momentum going there, and the bulls are winning out a bit. And then you're going to get profit taking. It just makes sense from folks who have gotten in at the previous high and wrote it down. You're going to have folks selling once we get back to that level. So I like to see that, and you're seeing it here. You see a bit of a pullback. So I'm hoping that what you mentioned with the just getting some support here and an attempt to move higher. That's a big gap to fill. So if it does get running, that'd be really nice to see, right? It could make a move. Is that what you're thinking, Sean? That if it does get there, it can make a quick move, pretty big.
I think so. I mean, end phase before I've seen in the past, because when you flick through the stocks after they have earnings, I've seen it move kind of 10, 13% on an earnings report. I mean, a lot of stocks do that anyway, but yeah, I think I'm not too sure. Maybe I should have measured that out, but it looks like it could be about that, roughly 10, 15% up to kind of that 214 level. But yeah, I think going back to kind of my original thesis of breakout trading, it'll be looking to kind of break that 190 level, come back down, retest and move up. But obviously with earnings, that doesn't really happen. That was a move maybe I was looking for the week before, just gone, which I did partake in. I'm just kind of holding the position now. I'm not too sure if I'll hold it through earnings because that's a risky game, as you both know. But yeah, we'll see what happens with end phase.
So just to add to what you guys are saying, right? This is a bit from a fundamental standpoint. There are 35 analysts that cover end phase. And out of the 35, you have 17 strong buys, 8 buys, 9 hold, and only 1 sell. So a lot of bullish momentum, at least from the street, that we are seeing here.
That's the thing. Sorry, go ahead.
So just one other. So from a trading standpoint or investing standpoint, the stock is currently trading its 52-week low. Your range was 152 to 339. So something for folks, if you're not trading and you're investing for a long-term standpoint, this could also potentially be a place where you can add more. Again, not a financial advice, do your due diligence, but the stock is trading at its near 52-week low.
Yeah, and that's why I brought it up, because it's not been moving with the market as like many other stocks have. And it's those kind of opportunities you want to kind of address and potentially partake in if it sets up nicely for you.
Yeah, and one last thing, short interest is 6.18. So not a lot. Generally, short interest is when it's 20%, 30%. That's when it becomes like a candidate for, the
Big
short squeeze.
Yeah,
we haven't heard that terminology since AMC has disappeared. But 6% short interest is still decent, right? If it builds up further, you may be able to see a short squeeze at least for a short time, especially if it's trading at this low, a 52-week low.
A quick side note: did I hear or read that AMC got rejected for they're trying to convert their
APE shares? Yeah, so that's a good sign. And I think on Friday, the AMC ran up 100%. So the stock was about like $4, $3.84, something like that, and it after market it was almost like $7.90, $8.
Wow.
Then I think it dropped back.
Yeah, on the bad news.
Yeah, imagine if you bought calls just before the close.
Yeah, that's going to be a rough Monday. Yeah. All right. Well, sorry to derail a little bit there. I just remembered reading about that and interesting headlines.
Nice. So yeah, I was with NNDM. This is NNDM, ticker symbol. This is a request basically from one of our commenters, and I thought, okay, yeah, let's give it a go. I have covered the stock before, not on this channel, but on my YouTube channel. They're a tech company. They have machines that make little kind of capacitors and stuff like that. They're 3D printers basically that make little electronic parts for companies. They also involved with AI, which is good. You may have said a bit of run up from that, but not a lot in terms of what's actually happened with AI, of course, with the likes of NVIDIA, Palantir, all that kind of thing. But going back to the chart, we can see I've got two zones drawn out from 290 to 3. Now, it's important before I jump into this that this stock is obviously, in my book, it's a penny stock. And it's obviously very volatile. You should be very careful when you trade these stocks, of course, because I just said it, they're very volatile. They can move against you very, very quickly, but also likewise, they can move for you also very, very quickly. And we saw that recently in a move it had just in the turn of July, or late June, actually, late June. But yeah, going back to the the chart on a technical basis, we have the 20-minute average is wonderful. It's come through this trend line. This trend line goes back 18 months. So it's a solid trend line. It's been hit a few times. I didn't want to put it on here because otherwise you wouldn't be able to see the chart. But the 20-minute average moving through that very, very comfortably. And hopefully we can get that move up to kind of $3. And we spoke a bit about psychological levels earlier. I think that would be a slight psychological level, although you can't really be too sure with stocks like this because, like I said, they move really, really fast. But generally, I think it's moving in the right direction. They've got loads and loads of cash. So if there was to be a recessionary type environment, they would be okay. They would be able to survive on a fundamental basis. They're continuing their acquisitions. They're trying to buy Stratasys. They're kind of toing and throwing with that at the moment. So that's interesting. I'd be interested to see if there's any analysts on this, Kay. I don't know if you can research that just quickly now if they actually do cover it at all. But yeah, that's what my thoughts are on the stock. I think if we can break this 322 level, maybe come back down, we test it, and then yeah, future's bright for NNDM, that's for sure.
That'd be good. That would be the setup, right? Get some long upper wicks there forming at this level for sure. But yeah, I agree with you. I refer to these as penny stocks, and but I was told that's what's the word? Anyways, they prefer microcap trading.
Oh,
so I don't know. Penny stocks it is.
What is the definition of penny stock? I think below $5.
I think it's below 5, but there's a negative connotation. That's the word I was looking for.
Exactly. Right? Because if you think about below $5, there are so many other stocks. I mean, SoFi was a penny stock at some point in time.
For sure.
You had AMC is a penny stock if you think about it, right? By the way, to answer, Sean, your question, unfortunately, Wall Street does not cover NNDM right now.
I thought that might be the case, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. It's been on the radar. I feel like this is a name that retail traders are aware of, though.
You know, the 2020 time, 2020, there was a lot of pumping going on with NNDM.
Gotcha.
And a lot of YouTubers, they pumped NNDM to a point where I think the stock was, if we go 5 years here, just looking at it, give me a second. The stock ran, 1567. Yeah, exactly. So this was in 2021 when the whole 2020 up, when you had a lot of YouTubers pumping, all these penny stocks up, it went up to $15 and people were like, this is the new technology. Everything was going to moon at that point of time, but then it just crashed and,
the good old
I remember those days. That's when I started investing before all the trading. And obviously it got me very excited. So I was probably part of that train at some point.
I love it. Yeah, everybody getting in for the first time right there was like, we'll be millionaires in 4 years. It's gonna be great. It was starting with just $5,000.
Exactly. But you know what? This is. I also want to say I'm not ridiculing. This is part of the learning process, right?
Oh, 100%. Okay, good point.
You have to sometimes go through these, right? You will say, well, we told you so. But unless I think it's a part of a learning experience. So as long as you did not blow up your entire mortgage or 401k on stocks like these, I think it's a good learning experience. And in future you would be able to identify these patterns or bubbles and maybe stay away from it, or even if you want to risk it, at least have a good risk management in place.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, really good lesson.
All right. What else we have, Sean?
We also have NNDM. So this is reporting earnings on Wednesday, I believe, which is the orange line I've drawn there. And I have got, I've gone for a little bit of a projection. You can see, I'm sorry, Nate, I need to change my red lines, but that's a red line kind of going down.
Oh, of course. I didn't look ahead. This is, again, I'm just sabotaging your charts now.
So we can see I've drawn a red line there in anticipation of more of a bit of a punt, really, I suppose, and that's a 28% drop. But also likewise, on the other hand, you've also got a 33% rise to my nearest kind of resistance line. We saw during the week just previous, we had a bit of news come out related to NNDM, and obviously it reacted nicely with that, and then it came straight back down. It was good news, but it wasn't like amazing news. They're basically releasing more products and kind of Internet of Things, that kind of thing. You can obviously look at news, the latest news on NNDM for that. But yeah, what I've got here, the top two lines. I'm really not organised this one very well, but yeah, the top two lines of 1850 and 26 is a range that I would like it to stay in on a near term, but the lines that I've drawn there for kind of anticipation of a drop, a run, it's just there for a bit of fun. That's just a distance between the support and the major resistance, the major support and the major resistance. And what I really wanted to point out was the fact that we're basically trading in the middle of that. But at the same time, we're above all three moving averages, and they're coming up quite nicely. The 200 is starting to curl up. If you can get the 200 above that trend line, I think this stock has a very good kind of future, at least to the end of the year. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen macro-wise, of course, but I think this stock is really turning around. And obviously, if they can keep releasing good news and maybe they can post a good earnings report on Wednesday, I don't know how likely that is. Obviously, they haven't really got up and running just yet. But yeah, that's something to be looking out for NNDM, and it certainly excites me. I did mention earlier on in this session that I have sold the position that I had just because of this wonderful run up we had. I sold it just above 23, which obviously you could call me lucky, I suppose, for getting rid of that at that time. But I thought, this is overextended. I need to get rid of this one. And just take your opportunity, take a chance. Just got lucky with the actual execution. But it's coming back down to the 20. Will I buy it here? No, I don't think so. I'm going to let this play out a little bit. Hopefully, we can trade between 1850 and 26, and that's what I'm looking for in the weeks to come. I talk a lot, don't I?
No, I think you just think you do. But we're we're listening. We're soaking it up, Sean. But we want to hear all the information, so you're good. I was going to add. Oh, go ahead, you first.
No. So what I was saying that Sean brought up a very good point, right? Sean said he sold his, position to make a profit. And this is very important because it seems like Sean had an exit strategy. And Sean, maybe you can expand on your exit strategy, because a lot of times what happens is when the stocks are running up and you are in the trading phase, you want to hold off from selling, even though whatever exit criteria you had put in place, it has a green mark, it's checked in, but you are still holding off. What was your exit criteria? Can you walk us through that?
So my exit strategy was for it to kind of move up nicely, consistently up until 26. Now I understand with this stock, it jumps around and all that kind of stuff. And I thought this move that it had on the news, and the news wasn't amazing. It was good. It was positive, but it wasn't stock changing. So I thought, okay, this could be a good sell on the news event, and maybe it would trade down sideways, and I can get in again at a kind of similar price. So I basically sold the news. In a way, but my original plan was to 26. But because of the extended move we've had in the last few weeks, it made sense to me to sell a position. And I thought, okay, it needs to calm down a little bit. It needs to come back down to earth, and that's hopefully what we're going to see in the next weeks to come. I hope that answers your question.
Yep, it did. Thank you.
I like it. And that's not, you're not unable to trade it again, right? You get right back in if you see the opportunity in the setup. One last comment is. If you look to the left side of this chart, it can really make a move in a short amount of time. Those up and down, you've noted that's over 33% there from that full range, and that's like 4 or 5 days at a time. It's clearing the entire range. So that's
a quick mover. Yeah, very quick mover.
Good stuff.
It's not one I day trade. It's just one I swing trade. Because if I day traded that, I'd lose my mind.
Yeah, that could be. How long are your swing trades usually, Sean? Do you have
probably about 2 to 4 weeks?
Nice.
And if you know, for example, an end phase one, I'll probably hold that for about 5 to 6 months. It'll be a longer one, just because I'll get a couple of good earnings reports. Because cost, of course, see what comes out of the news. But it all depends kind of what my time frame is for it, what the technicals look like. But generally, it's about 2 to 4 weeks. Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. Well, keeping it rolling. We got Meta mentioned big earnings this week, and I had a couple of charts, and maybe we should start just flowing in multiple charts for the same, the same ticker, because I wanted to zoom in on this a little bit as well as have this zoomed out look. But one had to win out. So this larger frame is showing that the 315.88 level was a strong support level before it broke and Meta kind of broke down. And now we got right back to that level and it rejected, so 315.88 pulled back now, but we're at the 20-day moving average, which is held nicely for seemingly forever, at least in 2023. And I circled here little highlights. Every time we were getting the earnings this year in 2023, right? Not previously, but Zuckerberg seems to have figured it out, and we go into earnings and then massive gap up the last 2 times around, right? So are we going to see something like that again? I don't know. That seems like a pretty high risk, high reward trade, but again, we're right at the 20-day moving average. 315 is right there. It's a nice target to try to get to and break through. And if Meta comes out with a strong report, Kay, you were kind of talking about that as potential earlier, right? Maybe we get great earnings from these big names. We'll see a nice strong bounce right off that 20-day moving average. So that's just what I noticed here. If we don't get that move, it actually breaks down further, the 50-day moving average slides up right in nicely at 274, which seemed to be a level that we paused at previously, on this move higher. So that's really what I'm looking at, the 2 levels, 274 for support if it breaks down, and then trying to get back above 315 on a move higher.
Guys, did you know that this is up 135% year to date?
Say that again, 135?
Yes, this stock started off at 124 on January 3rd.
That's insane.
Wow.
Exactly.
Okay, so you'll see this in growth stock. I track growth stocks. You'll see growth stocks that will move up big moves in short order, and people are like, all right, well, I'm not going to invest in them. But that's actually just the beginning of 200, 300, 400% run. And it's incredible and to see it. And if you can spot the setup, it's great. To see this in Meta, I mean, what's the trillions of dollars? That's just incredible. It's incredible.
So there's a background story to that, right? So not trading related, but from an investment standpoint, Meta was hammered. If you remember Metaverse, right? It got hammered. And there was so much fear in the market that Meta will never recover. And this company brings $30 billion in its revenue on a quarterly basis.
Quarterly, yeah.
Exactly. And it was like, it will never recover. The business is gone. And so the stock is back up 135%. After all the layoffs, after all the restructuring they have done, the stock is back up. There is a reason why FANG stocks are FANG stocks. Or now they are called Big 8, whatever we want to call it. There's a reason why those are largest companies in the world. They can recover, most of the times, when they do restructuring. So
there was little doubt in this recovery. Look at that. I mean, just a straight line. 45-degree angle, of course. Sean, were you going to jump in there? Sorry.
I can't remember what I was going to say. To be quite honest,
Kay will do that. Kay's so gripping.
I'm a big fan of moving averages. You can see the 50s really kind of, you just said it just there, the really kind of straight line, very consistent. It just shows how consistent Meta has been this year. But also likewise the 150, I think, is that 150 coming up? It
is the 150. Yeah.
The 150 is coming up really nicely as well. I think that's really nice to see. I mean, even if we trade in the zone for a little while, obviously earnings will probably debate that slightly. But if we can kind of trade in the zone for a little while, bring up that 150, I think that'll look really good for the years to come from a long-term perspective. Short-term wise, obviously, I've said it before, but I think we could break this 20 and move down to the 50 related to the QQ, I mean. But yeah, looks good.
Yeah, I think if we get the nice big breakout move, the range that it was trading in previously is what I would be looking for to target for a high. So 315 breaks, targeting 355 roughly looks like the next leg higher. So yeah, those are kind of the levels I'm looking at: 355, 315, and 274. We'll see what happens. Oh, you know what, Kay? Was there anything on the options side of the house for Meta?
Yeah, so
I actually did want to ask you about that as we head
super
into
bullish. It's 0.69 put to call ratio, super bullish.
Yeah,
And
not surprised.
let me also, so for this is 728, right? For 728, we are looking at, once my internet loads up here. Yes, so we have, on the call side, we have 2,100 contracts. So it's not really a lot on the open interest at 295. And on the put side, you have about 3,500 contracts at 290. So from a contract standpoint, if you compare it with an SPY or QQQ, it's like seems nothing. But that's what it is over here. One interesting statistics that you might like it. On an average, during the earnings, the stock moves on an average about 11.9% up or down. In the last couple quarters from this, they say on an average, it moves about 11.9% up or down. So you can, if you're going to trade, depending upon where you're, if things are going to be bullish or bearish, that's something that data that you can use as well.
You can see these big gaps, big moves.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I moved ahead a little bit too quick there, but let's get to Mara since I previewed that. Marathon Digital. I keep thinking I'm going to move away from this chart. There's no way. I just keep coming back to it. So I think we gave DraftKings a rest this week. But Marathon broke out of its range and then hiked up like it was being bought up by algos and finally got up to a point where I had to take a breather. We're back below the 1775 key level that I noted here and trending back towards 1530. I wouldn't be surprised if we got all the way back there, and that's the level I really want to see hold. If 1530 holds, then another move higher is well in the cards. These are the 4-hour candles, so that could happen in the next day or two, no problem at all, given the way this moves. And I'm looking for that new trend line to break. Right, we've got this downward trend line, really looking for a break above, and then the shot at 1775 again, and as the initial run. This all ties to Bitcoin. Say that every time we bring up Marathon. Bitcoin is trying to get back above 30,000. So if you see that happen, I would be expecting the same kind of run for Marathon here. And the only other thing I noted on this chart was the declining volume. So on this pullback, pullbacks being the theme, it's not been some massive decline, sharp decline. It's been orderly and it's been slowing down a bit.
So we'll broke the algorithm.
Broke
it. Yeah.
It's a shame. It was really working well.
What I like to see here is I don't know, because we've drawn fibs in the past. I mean, you two like to draw them more than I do, but you quite often see like a 50% retracement. I don't know if that's a common thing, but a 50% retracement here would be around about that 14-15 level. Do you see it potentially come down there as well?
Yeah, I think I'm hoping that 1530 is roughly in line with that 50%. That's what I'm hoping. But you're right. It could be a little bit lower than that and might get us down more like the 14-15 level. I could see that. These levels always, we know how it is. It's just for guidance, and so we might get a little bit below there. That would make some sense. But the key thing again is what is Bitcoin doing? And if Bitcoin falls off, this is going to ignore all levels and just kind of follow along. So we'll have to see. Right. Looks like a little bit stronger support at 13, would you say?
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, this is on my watch list since you brought this up for so many weeks. But I only had 2 trades, and then since then it just took off and I was never able to get back in. So I'm really going to I'm really tracking this very closely now.
Yeah, you're waiting for a range to kind of form before.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Smart move. You could certainly sell some cash secured puts here, but it would be a little bit risky, right?
I mean, unless I go out like 3 months out, and then maybe I can try at $12.98, that level, $12-13, right?
Sure.
But if I'm doing on a weekly basis, I want to see a little bit of a confirmation on the range before I actually get in. But I think 20 felt like not the right spot to get in for a CSP.
Do you sell many options going out that far, multiple months?
Only for very select stocks.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's just pure agony for me. So
Yeah. Only for select. So when I say select stocks, I mean stocks like Apple, Tesla, those kind of, where I can generate a lot of premium. But for every other stock, even like Intel, Bank of America, I would not go that far. It's on a weekly, bi-weekly max.
Okay, yeah, I'm with you on that. I go about a month and a half at the most, but I've been caught where, I sell a call, for example, 3 months out, and then like a week later, the stock just takes off on some big
Exactly.
news. And you just have to sit there and suffer for, months on end, just knowing you got your 5%. And
it's a trade-off, right? So if you want to do weekly, then you are not looking at 5-10% of gains, right? It's a 0.5%, 1%, 1.25. It's like a great percent for the week. Now, of course, when you are adding more time to it, your premium is going up. That's the risk and reward over there.
Yeah.
If the stock takes off like Meta, like 135% for the year, then you're basically screwed.
Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah. And if you are doing covered calls on a dividend stock, you have to be very careful with the ex-dividend date, because your shares are highly likely to be called if you have like multiple contracts and the dividend is pretty high for the company.
Yeah, exactly right. People will want those shares to get that dividend, the X date.
Yep.
Yeah, all good notes there. So yeah, right now it's just, I love selling covered calls and cash secured puts, but yeah, it's just not the market right now. I don't think most stocks that I'm looking at, I mean, there are opportunities always, but the things I'm looking at right now are just picking a direction. So not as many opportunities there. All right, well, let's keep it rolling. Plug Power. So this one has been actually performing really well for me in the very near term. Just got into it earlier this month, and I'm in the Savvy Trader portfolio contest. I'll actually be on Wolf Spaces this week a couple times. So Tuesday and Thursday this week, check it out. Post it on the Twitter timeline. Hope to see you guys there. Be talking about Plug Power, no doubt, because it's at this point here where you look like it's going to reject and probably pull back, right? We got this long-term downtrend in place. But similar to what we were looking at with Nano earlier, Sean, that long-term trend line was broken above, right? And now providing a breakout opportunity. And seeing the same kind of thing here is, that's what I'm looking for. So we've got initial rejection at that trend line, which makes a lot of sense after a big run up. But you've got the 20-day moving average crossing above the 50-day, and both of them curling up nicely, heading towards the 150, which is also starting to flatten out. All three are now below where the current price is for Plug at $12.39, and so they could provide some support there and allow it to either bounce initially or consolidate a bit, and then make an attempt to break that trend line. And if we get a big move and a breakthrough, it could see some follow through on that and make a push maybe all the way up towards $17-18 level. So that's what I'm watching for on a breakout trade potential. Right now it's kind of sitting on my hands and wait and see. Really curious what your thoughts are on this one, Sean.
This one, you mentioned a breakout of the trend line, but you could also have a breakout of the moving averages. So we've moved through the 150 there.
Yeah.
It's come down, retested it, moved up, and looks like it's coming back down for a second bite of the cherry. So you, in a way, you could actually enter if it touched down on the 150 again. I know it's a bit riskier, of course it is, but yeah, the ultimate breakout would be to break through, like the Nan dimension chart, to break through the trend line, which has been in place for quite some time, come back down, retest it, thereabouts, and that would be the ideal entry, the safest entry. But if you were looking to take a little bit more risk on, especially this market at the moment. Of course, it makes a little bit more sense in my eyes. You could actually enter kind of around about these levels because you're above the 3 moving averages, like you said.
Yeah.
The 20 is coming up nicely, and you're kind of getting that second bite of the cherry. I'll say it again. I said the same thing twice.
It's because it's so good and it makes a lot of sense. So
I will be adding this to my watch list, that's for sure, because I love a breakout trade.
This is how I can tell whether or not my charts are good or not during the week, is whether or not Sean and Kay say something along the lines of, I'm adding this to my watch list. So I'm calling this a win. This is a fantastic week.
100%.
Win.
Good stuff. And if you guys are enjoying this as well and adding this to your watch list, check this out. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. So we'll be here every week. Yeah. Go ahead, Kay. What were you going to say?
And the premiums are pretty decent, by the way. So
Yes,
guess what?
they are.
Yes, I am adding it as well in the $12 range. Perfect.
Oh, I got both of you on plug. I love it. I added it to the portfolio. I'm telling you. And yeah, we'll see what happens. So
you should have covered it earlier, Nate. You made us lose a month worth of money over here.
This is true. This is true.
One thing,
right. I'll try to do better.
All right.
One thing I want to add to this one is if you look at the daily, because I've just added to my watch list just now. If you look at the daily, which you're on now, but if you have the 200 moving average, you're actually just smoothing underneath that. So that's a potential resistance.
Oh,
point.
Interesting. The 200 is still above.
Yeah. It's just literally hovering just above it.
Right.
So that's something to look out for. But I like the 150. I like this chart that you posted better than my chart.
Yeah, get that 200 out of there. All right, good stuff. We have something positive to look forward to next week because we've been talking a lot about pullbacks. So let's see what happens with plug. And yeah, anything could happen, of course, but I like it. All right, so I've got Robinhood up next. I mentioned this last week. Just want to kind of follow up on my thoughts there. Controversial stock, of course, and some folks love the 24-hour trading. Some folks can't stand that idea. It sounds to me like they're gonna. I mean, I just can't figure out a way that works that doesn't allow them to kind of front run trades and take advantage perhaps of the traders a bit. But I don't know enough about that stuff. What do I know? It's just me on the outside looking in. I would say I'm going to hold off and see how things go and maybe have a broader market before I'm trading 24/7 on Robinhood. But this, to the chart, I thought that we would get a pullback last week and to test the 20-day moving average. We didn't get that, actually. It held the 1236 level nicely and moved up and, took a pause after it got to 13 and pulled back a little bit along with the rest of the market. Maybe we get that pullback this week. So I left the lines. I could have redrawn them a bit, but just left them in place and thinking that if we do get the, kind of hawkish tone and more of a nervous market, maybe earnings aren't great as, maybe they do the opposite of what we expect, then we get that pullback. And I've got 1124 as that support level. The 20-day moving average would probably be right around that, a little bit higher. And I want to see that hold to make a move higher again, continue the trend. The trend is our friend. We've got the 50-day moving above the 150-day moving average after breaking out of that range. So targeting 1395 next above that. That's really all I have on Robinhood. Just wanted to follow up again and say that maybe we'll get that pullback this week since we didn't get it last week.
Yeah, I think all the time it spends in these kind of areas, putting up all of those moving averages were key as well for the future. And you touched on it there slightly a bit. When I'm looking for it in Palantir at the moment, where Palantir is kind of trading in a range, and that's really, really nice because it brings the bigger moving averages up, which makes the trend more set in stone in my eyes, anyway.
Right.
So if we can get that with, obviously we've had a breakout, which is nice. If we can get that with Robinhood, I think we could be going in the right direction. News aside, just technical views basically.
I do love that setup when you get the consolidation, let the moving averages slide right up underneath, and then they just take back off again. You're less worried about the harsh pullback and closing the gap back to the moving average. It's a nice setup for sure.
Can I just share that the put to call ratio is 0.16 here. So you can imagine how bullish this seems like it.
0.16
exactly.
Like, nobody is. All right, now I have to rethink everything because I'm kind of a contrarian investor at times, and if nobody is expecting a pullback, I mean, Wow, I can't remember last time you said 0.16 on a.
I don't remember, because even for stocks like SoFi, Palantir, they are
Right.
in like 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, and it's very bullish. If it's like 0.8, 0.9, then the market is still like kind of not as bullish. Like generally, one would be neutral, but this is like, I don't know, this is like super bullish. There's no pullback on this one.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is crazy. Every 16 puts has 100 call contracts. Like that's all right.
Yeah.
Noted. So it is in my Savvy Trader portfolio, and I need to close out the month strong. So come on, guys, let's make these calls happen. I love it. Anything else to add before we switch charts and hand it over to Kay?
Nothing for me on this Monday.
I say we
We're
hand it
good.
over to Kay. All right, what we got first up?
All right, we have the big ones. Three
Big
out of the
names.
four charts today are reporting earnings next week. So my analysis is more on the earnings play, which I generally like to do. I will say as a disclaimer, earnings are a binary event. We can anticipate something, and the company can completely surprise. So even if the company reports earnings which is in line with you, if you are on option side, you would have a major IV crush. And just how it happened with Tesla, the stock dumped right after the earnings, and that always happens. So be very careful when you're doing earnings trade. But with Google, what is very interesting, Google has been on our discussion list for a long time. Like, I've been tracking Google for very, very long, and all I can say that question is, will earnings pull Google into overdrive? Because this stock has been lagging compared to some of its peers like Microsoft, like Meta, like Apple, Nvidia. This stock is not there at all. It's like very slowly climbing up the ladder. So as you can see, 118, since we love to use fib levels on this 118 seems to have found a very good support line. Now I wanted to ask you guys, do you guys see a double bottom here as well, or is it just me looking at double bottom?
No, I see it.
Right. um if you are going to trade earnings, right, this is very important, because the stock generally moves between 4.7% and 5.4%, which relates to the current price of 120. You're looking at about $5.50 to $6.50, up or down. So if you are going to trade options, that is something that you can consider if you want to either write a call or write a put, or whatever you want to do that. Very bullish, 0.75 for the next coming week, put to call ratio. So still very bullish that it is going to
It's not
break.
0.16 though.
It's not 0.16, but it's also not hyper growth, and it's so much high beta, right? So it's a Google, right? Most likely.
Could you imagine Google 0.16 put to call ratio? Like that would be.
Oh my God.
We would all be getting rich.
Okay.
Or the opposite. I don't know.
So since you said that, right? I want to talk about the earnings for a second. Earning per share is expected to be about $1.34, and last quarter they reported 1.17, and they had a beat. On the revenue side, this company brings $72.75 billion in a quarter. That is the expectation. Last quarter, they brought $69.79 billion. It was also a beat. So most likely you are going to see a beat here, especially with the AI ramp up. So chances are they are going to do a beat, because May we had this big ramp up on all AI stocks. So keep that in your calculations. Calls at 126 is 7.3, which would put you right between the August and April high, and 125 is 8.3. On the put side, the downside looking at 114 for 1.3k open interest, and 115 at 6.6. So that falls right in the range of $5.50 and $6.50 if you're going to take it either on the upside or the downside. That's how I'm seeing on the trade for this week for Google.
Yeah, the double
Awesome.
bottom is interesting there. I don't like that it curled back down last week, but it didn't get quite as low, and you got some lower wicks looking like it wants to move higher. I feel like it's got to most likely trade up into earnings, kind of what you were saying, I think, with respect to the AI noise, and everybody's kind of hyped around it. So, yeah, I like. So you're trading for upside on earnings, K, or did you say? I'm sorry, I might have missed that.
Yeah. No, I am definitely trading on the upside for the earnings. Especially the idea is that you open the cash secured put a day before. So this is reporting on Tuesday, right? So I can open a cash secured put on Tuesday itself before the market closes. So you're buying the rumor, right? And then if it goes up, next day you'll have a major IV crush on that, and you can probably sell it off as long as it doesn't drop like Tesla. So that's something too. But again, it's a $6. So I said as a $5.50 to $6.50. If that is the range you expect the stock to move up or down, you can use those levels to buy the options.
It definitely looks ready. It's consolidating nicely. So, last couple of times it consolidated, it just chose to move higher. So that's what I'm hoping to see as a Google owner. We'll have to see
I see something completely different to both of you. And I did this last time you brought up Google, and I don't want to do it again, but it's just what I see on the chart. So if you drew a trend line from the middle of March, must be, from the kind of that low point, if you drew a trend line through kind of the next high there, which is kind of May, and then obviously that trend line would then go through the current price action.
Yes.
It broke that trend line. It looks like that recent peak we had about 4 or 5 days ago hit that trend line and came down. So I think this could be, obviously earnings will change that regardless, but just as a chart perspective, it's just something, I mean, I see. That's what we get with this, with the perspectives, with this channel, with this live sessions that we do. But yeah, that's what I see. I see a negative momentum, if anything. I don't want to do that. But
no. So I think
me.
I think Sean brings a good point, right? So I think when you draw a trend line versus when you're drawing a fib, it gives you a completely different picture. If you switch to the weekly, you'll see a different picture, and that's where the excitement comes, like, because every single time interval gives you a different kind of a picture. But I get what you're getting, because technically it's below the trend line, the price right now. But on the fib level, I feel 118 is still a very good support level for the stock, considering it has bounced off of it. So let's see how the earnings play out. Seems like folks are more bullish on Google going into earnings.
Yeah, and like I say, these chart patterns mean nothing when you go into earnings, or if a particular piece of news comes out. Obviously they will trump technicals. It's just something I observed on the chart.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point you brought up.
Great perspectives, guys. All right, what's next, Kay?
Well, so this is another stock that is going to report earnings. Microsoft. We haven't covered this earlier, but this is the first time I'm putting it here, and I drew a channel on the trend line, and I think because I don't want to use fibs over here, since it's our first time, is better to understand the trend right now. This stock has been respecting this trend line from a very long time ago, at least from at least from the year onwards. The stock is up year to date 43%. So still not as impressive as Meta, but still very impressive. 43% on a stock like Microsoft, about $2 trillion plus company. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Price continues to be above the 20-day SMA, and RSI, even though it's declining, it's not like oversold or anything like that. Volume is, of course, on the rise because of the earnings coming up. If you're going to trade, be very careful. The moves could be anywhere between $13 to $16 up or down. This is the average that during the earnings the moves happen. Put to call ratio is 0.92, so a little bit more bearish, because this stock is also trading near its 52-week high. So unless you have a major announcement on something that can bring a new major revenue, we could see buy the rumor, sell the news on Microsoft. But I feel like this trend line is being respected, at least from at least an year-to-date perspective. What do you guys see?
Some big volume last week. What was that all about?
It was also AI related, right? Because Apple announced that they are getting into AI as well.
Oh, that's right. That was just last week.
Yes.
Oh, what a long week. Oh yeah, that's right. So I mean, personally, I like that you drew this channel here, because it reminds me of what's going on with S&P a bit. So we're back. This is now back towards the bottom end of the channel. We've got the moving average there, providing some support. It looks like a nice setup to regain the upward momentum and move back towards the upper side of the channel. I mean, continue to make higher highs and higher lows here. So until that breaks and until that lower trend line breaks, I don't see any reason to trade it any differently.
Yeah, the trend is your friend. We've said it many times before, and this is a perfect example of that. It's going up, so run with it. Basically, that's what I would say.
Exactly. All right.
Good relative strength and not overbought, right?
No, it's getting ready prime time, because I think this pullback helps into the earnings, because that gives you the little range to play your Microsoft if you are trading Microsoft for the range.
Yeah, today's call has been crazy. We kind of started off very much talking pullbacks and a lot of, caution. And it's like Plug Power started this talking a little bit more. We got to that chart, and now we're all kind of swinging the other way here. So what do you have to say about Intel? We keeping it going?
I love Intel, because I've been trading Intel pretty much every single week since last 5 months now. So it has been one of my most bellwether stock for now. Closed higher than last week, it has remained above the 3390, which on the fib level is a new support level. Just like for Google, I have the 118. Again, I think if you draw the trend line, you might see the trend breaking. But on the fib level, these levels are being respected in a much easier fashion. Uptick in RSI volume is above the 220 SMA. If you are going to play the earnings, just remember they had a beat in the earnings last time. So the company was expected to lose 4 cents. They actually came in 10 cents above. So that's great. This time they're expected to lose 3 cents on earning per share, and the revenue is expected to be about 12 billion. So if it meets or goes above, you could see a breakout here on Intel. Considering Intel has been beaten up as a stock in the last 4 or 5 quarters now, or at least 4 quarters I can think of. And the call ratios at 36 is 3.8 and at 32 is 2.5. So 32 between 30.02 and 3390 is what I'm really expecting the stock to trade. It's $2.50 to about 2.15 cents to 2.70 cents is the range the share move. So it's not like a massive move that you will see in Intel. So between $2 and $3 is a good range if you want to trade in. Put to call ratio is 0.59. So we'll keep it as is.
I'm big on the chips. I've been following semiconductors pretty closely all year. And I was just pulling up just because I thought chips were down last week.
It was, yes.
Yeah, a couple of percentage points, and all that tied to Taiwan Semiconductor, right? And one thing I noted there was they were talking about having a hard time finding qualified, experienced workers to work in their factories in the States. And I thought that was interesting because I had actually looked at Taiwan Semi postings when they were posting for different opportunities several months ago. And one of the requirements was you had to go, I think, and live, if I remember correctly, you had to go and live in Taiwan for like X number of months to get fully trained up and, understand their culture there and everything else. And so think about how limiting that is. Like how many people are willing to just move for a number of months and then move back? Like that's really going to kill your talent pool, where Intel is not going to face that kind of challenge, right? That they're going to need to hire and they're going to build out and increase what they're doing. It's local. So I think that's interesting to note. That news this week I thought was pretty fascinating, but in the chip sector overall. But I think this is where you want to be in the future as far as everything's going to have microchips, and it already does basically, right? Even your refrigerator.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
We've just had a comment as well asking if we can add AMD to the chart rotation. Perhaps we can have a look at that next week.
Yes. Yep. We'll do AMD next week as well.
Awesome.
I like that.
Next one you will love. Go ahead, Sean. You had some comments.
I was going to add something with this. You said trading between a range of 30 and 34 pretty much is what I heard from when you said that.
Yeah,
Is that an
that's what
ideal
I'm.
range that you accumulate and you do that strategy that you talk about? Is that
Yeah, so
ideal
I basically what I do is I open cash secured puts between 30 and 30 $32, and I try to sell at the money calls, and I just keep repeating it because
Explain a little bit with the cash secured puts, like how that works, Kay, if you don't mind.
yeah, absolutely. So basically what we are trying to do in cash secured put is you're trying to put a collateral using your cash to buy shares at a certain strike price. So for example, in this scenario, if I want to open a cash secured put, let's say I choose a $30 strike price and I say I will buy Intel at $30, and let's say the expiration is a week from now, and I'll have to put $3,000 as a collateral. So it's not a naked put. You are actually have to put $3,000 as a collateral. Now, to do that, the market gives you a premium. So that premium could be, let's say, $10 they'll give you. So technically, out of the $3,000, your effective cost basis will be $2,990, which is $29.90. So what you are doing basically is you're offsetting and you're adding a little bit extra downside protection just in case stock falls below $30. At least you are getting into a good price. So basically, that's how we do it. Now, the second leg to it is called covered call. So once you get a stock assigned, you sell a covered call where you can sell at the money where you bought the stock at, and then they will give you a premium again. So that gets added to your profit as well. So there's a lot of videos that I have done on my channel, so you can definitely go and check it out. I do this wheel strategy on a weekly basis and even bi-weekly basis on various stocks. AMD will cover. I actually did an AMD trade, I think 2 weeks ago. And
Perfect.
Yeah. So I'll cover that as well next week.
Thanks for explaining that, Kay.
Awesome. Yeah.
I'm not going to say much on Apple because I want you guys to tell me what are you guys seeing here. I threw out all the fib levels from it because it kept breaking all-time high. I'm like, let me throw it out. And I just drew this, I don't know, a very crappy trend line, but this is how it looks like. And I want you guys to tell me what are you seeing here. The channel is getting very narrow at the bottom, at the top.
It is getting narrow. What do you think, Sean?
I think this tells the future of the market in a way as a whole. So if we break up, we go on another run, an extra run, shall we say, maybe towards that kind of 480 level that people have been talking about on the SPY.
Yeah.
But likewise, if we break down, I think we can really kind of make a move lower. Maybe that correction we're talking about, 10, 15%. I don't know what that would be, maybe 170-ish on Apple. But yeah, really as simple as that. To me, that's what wedges are. I mean, you create a wedge, eventually the range gets tighter and tighter, and it will break. It will break up, it will break down. Whether it breaks down harshly or breaks up harshly, that's another thing. But generally, trends are meant to be, finished eventually. That's what my thoughts are.
I agree, and I think these are ascending, right? I get the word right, and the rising wedge, ascending wedge.
Yeah.
I'm typically looking for a break lower because it's already rising. It's been rising so much that a break higher is going to be an extended move, and I think we were talking about that earlier. I just don't usually trade that, but I would trade a break lower, and I like the 170-ish level only because. If you get that kind of a healthy, I'm not saying that's where I think it's going. I'm saying I would like it if Apple pulled back to 170. That would be healthy, and it would clean some things out of the market. It would make next moves higher not seem so outlandish or a stretch and risky, and overall it'd make for better trading, I think. So yeah, I agree. Apple's the direction of the market, so the one to watch. I like this chart, Cave, by the way.
No, I thank you. I deliberately deleted all the fib levels because they were not giving me any more signals.
They're just frustrating you.
Yeah, it was frustrating me. Every single week it was a new high. And I was like, let me just delete everything and start afresh on Apple.
That's funny. We're gonna add anything there, Sean, before we wrap up?
No, I just said I just basically asked him what his thoughts were, and he just said that. So
beautiful. All right, we'll get AMD next week. Great comments. Thanks everybody for adding the comments. thanks for everybody for subscribing and hitting the like button. Appreciate that the whole way. Another great week, another of trading and opportunities coming up. And, I feel prepared again. So thank you guys. And for boosting my ego and confidence a little bit by saying you want to go ahead and check out Plug Power. So I'll take the win. How about you, Sean? How you feeling?
Yeah, good. I think I'm going to be another kind of chill week. Lately, last 2 or 3 weeks, I've been just taking a step back and just kind of controlling trades I've already had. Obviously, the market's run up quite nicely in this year, basically. And I'm just kind of taking that opportunity to not go too mad with it, just take a controlled stance, manage my positions. Like I said, I sold NNDM is one of them. Obviously, managing SoFi and things like that as well. So I don't think I'll be starting any trades. In terms of trading earnings, I do like to, but only a very, very small amount of my portfolio. It's essentially a gamble. Of course it is. But we have to have fun every now and then, of course. And I'd like to get your take maybe on whether you trade earnings. I know, Kay, you said you did from time to time. And I think it's okay. It's natural. But yeah, just have to keep limiting that risk and keep risk management really, really down to a T there.
Yeah, before I hand it over to Kay, I'll just say that I do trade earnings on occasion, but I tend to trade where I'll sell options and take advantage of the implied volatility crush that happens. And I'll do that on stocks I'm really familiar with and have some trading levels to sell against that, have defined ranges. So I feel a little bit more comfortable there. But by and large, actually, I don't trade earnings too aggressively. I'm more like you, Sean, I think, where I kind of prefer to trade the charts and versus a binary event. So that's my typical way I operate. But with all the earnings coming through, you almost can't avoid it, these days. So I will add one other note. I did open up a Discord channel, and I'm putting all of my trade notes in there. I'll trade ideas. So it's Trader Nate Trading on Patreon. Check it out if you're interested. And it has all of those kind of ideas. Sean, you're in there, so you'll see them as I post them.
It is awesome. It's really well organized, and I was quite surprised actually from you.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Yeah. No, and I would say that for folks, if you join that Discord, it's really, you will understand why Nate has its mindset on the trade, because I think just giving trade ideas it's one thing, or trade alerts, but I think understanding the thought process behind the trade is more important, because you're basically trying to teach people how to fish and not just give them the fish itself.
Yeah, thanks, guys. That's exactly right. And I couldn't agree with you more, Sean. I set it up for everybody else, not for me. Because my organization, my own notes is I've got like 5 notebooks over here. That's not good. But yeah, I appreciate that, guys. And Kay, what else would you add for our closing thoughts here this week?
I think you guys covered pretty much about the earnings. It is a binary event. Like for most people, I think it's if you're not that risk on kind of a person, I would say stay away from it. I personally trade a lot on earnings. Actually, my trading volume goes up during earnings, specifically because I do trade all big names like FANG stocks. So, and I understand their ranges as well. So I like trading big names on earnings. But I would say if you are not a risk-on person, I would avoid trading on earnings. It's a gamble. No matter who says what, it's a gamble. Nobody can predict it.
Yeah, exactly right. I agree. The binary events. So be sure to follow Sean Trades on YouTube, you guys. Posting a lot of great stuff, especially about NEO recently. Really enjoying it. Follow Invest for Tomorrow as well. Kay posts a ton of great information out there. I've got Trader Nate Trading set up via Discord, and you can access it through Patreon. So quick plugs there. And before we sign off this week, appreciate everybody's support and safe trading. And, remember, always trade wisely and with lots of information. Have a good week, everybody.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Take care. Bye-bye.